Personnel and Finance meeting to order. Unless there are any changes, I need approval of the agenda. We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. Public comment. Any public comment? No public comment. Move on to committee items. Unless there are any changes, I need minutes, I need a motion and support to approve the minutes from July 14. Have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Passes unanimously. Thank you. Move on, we have a review, item 4B, a review of the retirement and the drop lists. We have several people there. Any discussion or? Thank you. We'll move on to item 4C, our monthly financial report. Welcome, Jim.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we're presenting the monthly financials for the 6 months ended June 30th, halfway through the year already. Therefore, our budget benchmark is 50%. Total expenditures are right at 50.4%. And looking at the trends, again, we're pretty much on track with historical trends with respect to expenditures. Revenues are a little bit ahead of the pace based on historical trends. And that's really, unless there's questions, that's all I have to say.
Questions, discussion? I have a question.
Yes, sir.
You speak of revenues being ahead of pace. They could be coming in quicker, or could they be higher than anticipated?
A little bit of both. And as was reported previously, at least the district court revenues are higher than anticipated to date. But otherwise, there's always some timing differences with respect to when we get the money. And we will be receiving, for example, timing differences depending on who pays their property taxes at the local level and the transmittal to the treasurer. So it's a little bit of both.
Thank you. Next up, we have JTA Authority report. Welcome, Bradley.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'd like to report for Jackson Area Transportation Authority, the county service delivered to the County of Jackson for the second quarter. We had 972 hours scheduled and delivered 2,101 hours, and overall ridership was 3,076. If you look at the pie charts that are attached, you'll see that ridership continues to decline as the job area reverse commute trips have been discontinued, so a lot of those free rides and things that weren't part of the county service are now fading away. Apologize for the noise and the numbers. Simply as when we tracked the ridership last year, we didn't segregate out the different types of JARC riders, so it's basically overall service to the county, so that those numbers will be more accurate as we move forward. As I reported last quarter, the overall efficiency, though, of riders accommodated versus hours expended, we continue to show a favorable trend there. So as of the second quarter, we were able to deliver $161,500 of service, of which the county contribution was $25,000, and year to date that brings almost $305,000 worth of service delivered to the county. As a cautionary note, you might be hearing we've had some funding shortfalls going into the next budget year. We'll be revising our budget. However, we don't have any projected impact to the reserve ride service at all, either city or county. Most of the savings we're looking at are coming from in-house adjustment and fixed ride or fixed route readjustments. So if there's any questions about that coming up, anybody feel free to call me, but there is no anticipated change to any of the numbers or trends we've seen as far as the county service goes.
Questions? Commissioner Elwell.
Brad, you've got all the numbers rolled together now, is what it looks like, and which is like the JARC, the job and reverse commute, I think that stands for, rolled in with our numbers.
That's correct.
Doesn't that make it harder for us to be able to track to know what hours we're actually getting if they're all rolled together like that or not?
Oh, actually, it was just for the ridership trending, is how the ridership was tracking, but the hours are actually the straight reserve ride hours, because the service that's being delivered, let me see if I can explain this better. The difference between last year's numbers and this year's numbers, but this year's numbers, all the service being delivered that's reflected is all county delivery service. Last year, it was all county delivery service also, but a large portion of that were free rides under the JARC, so that's why the numbers were so much better last year. So all of what's being projected here is reserve ride rides being provided to county residents. It's just, really, I was trying to explain the difference in why the numbers have dropped so dramatically. Because the current rides are under the current reserve ride rates, the pay-as-you-go, whereas a lot of the ridership last year was a lot of free rides that were delivered under JARC. So of course, when it's free, there's more service delivered.
Yeah, just as long as we can say with certainty that not that I don't trust that we're getting our hours, but to make sure that the hours that we're paying for are there, not just inclusive of JARC or any other free money that comes in.
Right, no, that's correct. The hours that we're seeing for this year, all of the hours this year are all county hours.
Thank you. With the reduction of the JARC rides, will there be a corresponding reduction in cost of operation?
Yes, as a matter of fact, and that's, like I said, as part of our readjustment, we've had to actually make some operating cuts as a result of losing, like I said, on the revenue side. So, and that's why I was saying there's a heads up. You'll be seeing probably some more of this either in the press or hear about it, is that we've already trimmed the Soper route back in the spring, and we're going to be making adjustments to the Blackman and West Canson routes here. We have public hearings later this month, so there are going to be corresponding cuts in service, but we don't plan on altering any of the reserve ride services at this time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Any further questions? Thank you. Thanks for your report. Mr. Latham, I must apologize. I missed one of your business items. Item D, budget amendment for register of deeds.
Chairman, this is budget amendment for the Register of Deeds Automation Fund or Technology Fund. And these are funds, as a review, these are funds that are restricted by statute to be used for technological upgrades within the Register of Deeds Department. And so this mainly is for continued cost of imaging and also for some equipment needs within the department. So.
Thank you, Mr. Latham. Commissioner Elwell.
I'd move that we send it on to the full board.
Support. We have a motion and support to send to the full board. All in favor indicate by saying aye. 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 Those opposed? None. Passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to item F, the land bank. Karen, I would have supposed, I don't have much listed there either. Yeah. Okay, we'll move on then to item G, the administrator controller. This is a lease for 936 Fleming. Would you like to talk about that? Okay.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. Have before you a request from Rise Above to lease vacant space at the old youth center at 936 Fleming Avenue. And I have with me Neil Fernandez. He's the CEO, director of Rise Above, and I thought Neil could give you a little bit of background on his organization. From our perspective, in 2010, we had agreed and approved a lease before with the Grace Academy. And their director, Eric Beta, certainly ran it well, but it ran its course, and Rise Above took over where Grace is left off. So with that in mind, I'll introduce Neil and have him give you an overview, if that's okay.
Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair, Commissioners. Rise Above really is a academic center that will tutor at-risk youth in the youth center, as well as those students that are suspended or expelled from the public school systems, with the hope that at the tail end of it, we will be able to offer them an entrepreneurial experience with the help of our partners in the community. The goal really is to focus on reading and phonics with each of the students. We, through a bunch of different studies and some research that we've done academically have noticed that reading really is the core issue of a lot of juvenile delinquency and court experiences, that by and large, 2/3 of youth that do not learn to read adequately by the 3rd or 4th grade generally have some experience with the court systems. So we want to kind of get it, nip it in the bud, if I could say, even though a little late, still try and recover the experience for the teen and send them off adequately. So we have 3 programs. One will be the reading program, Reading and Phonics with the Youth Center and Jeremy Burns. The second program will be the alternative suspension and expulsion program, and the focus there will be for credit recovery for those students that are suspended or expelled, and or at least keep them current on their area of study in high school, so that when they return to school at the end of their expulsion or suspension, they are prepared to return to school and not behind in their studies, so that they then can go on to take the exams and tests and whatever they may need to. Again, keeping a focus on academics for each of the students. Throughout each of those 2 processes, we will then identify students that have the certain personality or characteristic traits that would lend themselves to an entrepreneurial experience. And what Rise Above would hope to do at that point is to take those students, put them through a business training or business model program. We're hoping to do that with Spring Arbor University and the Gainey School of Business, and with the help of Jackson College. We're still working through some of the details of that. And then actually open for-profit enterprises with those students, giving them an opportunity to gain knowledge and experience, and hopefully within a very short time, 12 months to 2 years, literally cut the rope to those students and say, congratulations, you have your own business. I hope you do something with it that is profitable for you and your family and future generations, as well as be profitable for Jackson. So those are the core of what Rise Above is hoping to do here in Jackson in that facility. And yeah, if you have questions, I'd love to take them.
Questions? Commissioner Mahoney.
Thank you. I'm sorry, who will notify you for those students that are being expelled? Do you have a relationship with the high schools or junior high schools that will notify you? Because what they traditionally do is give the kids their homework and send them home.
Yes. Commissioner, you are exactly right, and that is with our relationship that we're building with, right now, Northwest and Western school superintendents. To put it in their own words, they said they've been talking about this very issue for 2 years, and they said, Neil, in 5 minutes, you've given us our answer. Basically, what will happen is we will have a liaison, a connection inside the school, that when a student is suspended, they will hand them our paperwork and say, this is an option for your student parent. If you would like, voluntarily, you can come to this facility and your student can continue on through their homework and or do credit recovery through E2020 or Edgenuity, whatever name it tends to go by. With that, we'll offer some other curriculum as well, but basically it'll be the school boards that will recommend, or not recommend, but suggest that this would be an option for the student. Because many times parents are, for habitual suspension or expulsion, students are at their kind of wit's end, and the superintendents kind of have to say, good luck. This is something a little different that gives the parents a little more than luck, gives them a hope for their students. So, yes.
Neil, is Rise Above a whole new program, or is it in use in some other city or some other state?
As a complete unit, it is its own. It is unique. There are elements of Rise Above elsewhere. For example, Holland, Michigan has a nonprofit there called Escape. And what Escape does, they do a suspension program. It's not quite the same, it's similar. We thought we'd created something new, and we realized they had some elements of what we were doing. We have visited them and kind of borrowed some stuff that they're doing, because they've been open for a couple of years, so we don't want to reinvent everything. But holistically, no, there is nobody that's doing entirely what we are doing, with a focus specifically on reading and phonics, knowing that that is the root of a lot of the issues these students are facing, because they just can't progress without that basic understanding.
I'll also say that I talked with one of our other commissioners, Alexander, and then I had a conversation with Mike Overton this morning after I'd reviewed the packet over the weekend, and I think our plan's probably going to be, I can make the motion a little bit, I guess, to send it on to the full board, but I wanted to actually see the lease. And Mike has had discussions about that and what needs to be in it. And I think I read in some of the documents that it was, there was a desire to have it as a 4-year lease. I'm a little uncomfortable with that, especially with the fact that I don't think we're going to charge anything for it. So I'll be supportive of looking at it at the full board next week when we've had a chance to look at the lease and knowing that the administrator's office has been able to cross all the Ts and dot all the Is on what we need or want.
Thank you. Yes, we've had those conversations. Best I can tell, frankly, great program. Fits well with the county's mission, goals, our objectives. I would encourage you to speak, if you have not, with Tim Rogers from the EG. When you talk about entrepreneurship and JAMA as well, they have different programs that might mesh well with what you're proposing.
Thank
In
you.
regard to the lease, we do have a little extra time. It's the 26th is our next meeting. And frankly, upon review, there's only a few minor things I'd like to modify. Lease hasn't been rewritten, I think, since 2010, so we'll make some minor changes and, share it with you, of course, and
Thank you.
bring it to the full board for 26th.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Hernandez, for the conversations we've had thus far so that I could gain additional insight. And I'd just like to share with the commissioners and the public, after several conversations with him, what thoroughly impresses me with his program is his business model, to be focusing on the reading and phonics, alternatives to expulsion, and the entrepreneurship. Those are very impressive. I also am very pleased with the collaborative efforts, as you make reference to our local public schools as well as colleges and universities. Thirdly, the relationship with the Justice Partnership. As you know, when students are expelled from school, it creates a whole new set of problems and issues, and that is currently being chaired by our own prosecuting attorney, Mr. Judzinska. So that's a very good thing as well. The one question I would ask of you, and to significantly consider, as Administrator Overton just mentioned, Tim Rogers, we have a network already in place that fits just perfectly with what you're doing, and it's referred to as the Cradle to Career Initiative. So by becoming involved with the Cradle to Career Initiative, you will be making, it'll be like one-stop shopping for you. So it will make your life easier as well as serving our community in a manner in which is desperately needed. So I thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any further questions and discussions?
Move to recommend to.
We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None? Thank you, sir.
Thank you, boards.
Next up, Health Department on the next two business items. Welcome, Mr. Hayduke.
Morning, Commissioners. Back again. I hope this is on your agenda as, for the Health Department, the WIC Public Health Nurse positions. Is that what we're looking at? I didn't quite hear Commissioner Duckham. Good. All right. We've had a number of changes in the Health Department recently through staff movements. We created a new public health nurse position in our maternal infant health program. That's resulted in some changes and shifts internally. So we had one of our nurses from WIC program apply into that program, so we have a vacancy. And we thought this was an ideal time to look a little bit more in depth at our staffing in the WIC program. Public health nurses aren't able to do as much in our WIC program as our registered dietitians can. And we actually receive a greater return on investment, if you will, by having nutritionists in our program versus having public health nurses. The other thing that we found over time is that the public health nurses are really not able to use all their clinical skills in nursing in the WIC program, and so we tend to lose nurses from the WIC program in general over time. So I think we've kind of felt that this is an ideal opportunity to convert the remaining two public health nurse positions in the WIC program into registered dietitians and go that direction. And we've already discussed this with the union, and they're okay with that, and so that's the support that we're seeking from the board today.
Thank you. Questions, concerns? Motion and support? We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None. Thank you. Passes
Thank you.
unanimous. Nick? Welcome, Don.
Good afternoon, everybody. Believe it's still the afternoon. As you can see from your packets, we are requesting a motion to release a contract for a household hazardous waste collection event in September. We do have a tentative date from a tentative contractor. One of your documents that I had submitted was our minutes along with our bid selection process to give you an idea of how we came to the selection of the recommended contractor. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions concerning that. The monies are coming from the leftover resource recovery facility funds, and so that's where the invoices will be sent when it's done. It is a by pound invoicing after the event, so there is can't really put an exact dollar figure on it, but based upon the events information that we have from 2008 and 2009, we'd have to have 2.5 times the amount of waste to go over the $25,000 budget line item.
Have support?
I'll support it, and I've got a question also.
Okay.
Is there an actual contract that gets signed?
Yes, there is.
Is it, maybe I missed it, but I'd kind of like to see that at some point also.
Well, the contract has not been written up. I do have the, also in part of the, your bid selection is the cost proposal from the selected contractor, ERG Environmental Services.
But there would be an actual proposed bid that's what we're actually voting on, is authorizing that, correct?
Yes, the motion is to release, authorize the release of a contract to ERG Environmental Services based upon their cost proposal, which is 65 cents per pound. Very minimal additional charges, no transportation charge, no personnel charge, which is one of the reasons why we chose them as part of the bid selection process. And the proposed date is September 27th.
I support all that, and I really like that day. I think it gets a lot of bad stuff taken care of, but again, I just would like to see the contract maybe it be in with a board packet.
Commissioner, or Administrator Overton?
Yes, voice, not a vote. I'm not so sure, maybe we're talking semantics here.
It might be.
It doesn't sound like we're going to actually have a contract. We've submitted proposals. They've said, we can do this for X price.
Exactly.
It's like you're hiring a service guy to come out and provide a service. You're not necessarily making a contract. They're going to haul away our stuff so much per pound. There really isn't a contract per se, if you will.
That's why I asked, and I was told yes, and it says in our packet that there is a contract, so if there is a contract...
Do you actually,
Yeah.
if
I'd just
there
like to
is,
see
we'll
it. If there's
definitely
not,
make sure you
that's fine.
see it. Have you seen a contract? Is there some?
Well, no, I have a cost
Yeah.
cost proposal, 65 cents a pound. Other than for mercury, mercury is $5 a pound, but, that's going to be minimal in the end.
So you have a proposal what it's going to cost responding to our RFP, but otherwise, there's not like some formal agreement some attorneys worked out or any of that,
No.
is there? No, okay, so there,
So it's probably a miscommunication on my part, a miswording of the motion perhaps. What I'd like to say is ERG came in at 65 cents a pound. EQ had a variable price structure, anywhere from 24 cents to 72 cents a pound. And then Drug and Lab came in at 68 cents a pound, but they also tagged on a transportation cost, and they also tagged on a labor cost. We are providing traffic control people, but the companies themselves actually do all the collection, the handling, as well as the removal of the waste. In addition, ERG is able to recycle 6 of the waste categories versus EQ's 5 waste categories versus Drug and Lab's 3 categories. So that was definitely went into our bid selection process too. So getting back to that misnomer, the contract, it is like garbage collection, except this is hazardous, household hazardous waste. So many cars are going to come in. We're going to do an appointment style. We're anticipating additional demand since there wasn't one last year, but we're not anticipating 35,000 pounds worth. I would probably put it more in the ballpark of 20 to 22,000 pounds.
Excuse me. I would suggest maybe we step back a step and approve the project based on the best proposal submitted, not to exceed $25,000.
Yes, I will be happy to restate the motion to say that we are approving it, the selected contractor, at a price of 65 cents per pound, not to exceed $25,000. And I believe that we can approve that here, and it does not have to go on to the full board. So that's my motion.
Okay, we have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I apologize for the confusion I possibly caused.
All good, yep, we're good. Thank you. Okay, moving on to other business. Need a motion to pay the claims. We have a motion and support. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? None. We have no other minutes to review. Next month's report is the Treasurer and Finance, I believe, on the schedule. Second round of public comment. We have no public comment. Committee member comment. Apparently no comment. Meeting is adjourned.